Hello viewers, welcome to the Editorial Analysis by Drishti IAS. In this section, we regularly take editorials from various newspapers and news portals for various issues happening in India and around the globe. Dear viewers, in this section, we first try to link our editorial with our UPSC syllabus. Then we go analytical in order to understand some key points and at last some important concepts. Dear viewers, we truly hope that you like this initiative taken by Dristhi IAS and your feedbacks are important for us. So kindly feel free to give your important feedbacks in the comment section. So without any further delay, let's start our session.
Dear viewer, this video is available in Hindi as well. If you wish to watch it, please visit our Hindi YouTube channel, Drishti IAS. For your convenience, the link for this video in Hindi has been provided in the description below.
Today's editorial is taken from The Hindu, published on 27th of October 2020. The title of today's editorial is The Shade of Grey. Dear viewers, if we summarize today's editorial, we can say that Pakistan has little option but to complete its FATF mandated tasks in the next 4 months. Now in this editorial, we will talk about the FATF and also about some of the tasks which are required to be performed by Pakistan if it does not want to fall under the blacklist category of the FATF. If we try to link today's editorial with our UPSC syllabus, we can link it with GS paper 2 with sections involving polity, governance, constitution and primarily with the segment that includes international relations. Some key points of today's editorial. The decision by the Paris-based watchdog, the Financial Action Task Force, that is the FATF, last week to retain Pakistan on its grey list has clearly disappointed the Imran Khan government. Now, last week, a decision was taken by the authority at FATF and they decided that Pakistan should remain on the grey list category of the FATF. His cabinet had projected confidence that the country would be taken off the grey list, monitored jurisdiction on terror financing and money laundering activities, having been cleared on 21 of the 27 mandated action points. The cabinet of Imran Khan was quite convinced that the country would be taken off the grey list of the FATF because they were assured that out of the 27 mandated action points which were framed under the 10-point action plan that was supposed to be followed by Pakistan and it was suggested to Pakistan by the FATF. Now this 10-point action plan contained of 27 indicators and of those 27 indicators, Pakistan has cleared 21 indicators. So they were quite convinced that with this performance, chances are quite high that Pakistan will be taken off the grey list. Pakistan will now face international strictures on its market and on its ability to procure loan until the next FATF plenary in February 2021, by which time it is expected to complete its 6 pending issues. So now there will be several consequences of Pakistan being put once again on the grey list category, and there will be some very hard strictures on the market of Pakistan, and also Pakistan will face a lot of difficulty in procuring loan. The next meeting of the FATF plenary will happen in the month of February next year, that is 2021, and which has almost around 4 months from now, and these 4 months will be the time that is being given to Pakistan to work on the remaining 6 issues. A bigger problem for Islamabad was that Turkey was the only other country in the 39-member FATF to push for Pakistan to be let off by making a suggestion that the last 6 points be cleared by an on-site visit by the FATF. Now, there is a bigger cause of concern for Pakistan. Now, because when this FATF plenary was taking place, out of the 39 member states, only Turkey came in favor of Pakistan. Only Turkey supported Pakistan. And it suggested that FATA should visit an on-site meeting, or you can say an on-site visit to Pakistan to see that how Pakistan has worked on those 6 pending issues. No country other than Turkey came in support of Pakistan here. Now, before we move ahead, it is quite important for us to see what exactly FATF is. Now, it is an intergovernmental body. It was established in the year 1989 during the G7 summit of the nations in Paris. Now, the most important objectives of the FATF is to set standards and promote effective implementation of legal, regulatory, and operational measures for combating money laundering, terrorist financing, and other related threats to the integrity of the international financial system. So we can see that the complete objective of FATF is to combat money laundering or the financing of the terrorists, which are a potential threat for the peace and security of the entire world. The Secretariat of FATF is located at the OECD headquarters in Paris. OECD is Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. The current president of FATF is Dr. Markus Pleer, and he belongs to Germany. Now, the objective which I said was very clear from the end of FATF. They want to put a complete end on money laundering or financing of the terrorist or any such operation that might bring some kind of disarrangement to international peace and harmony. It is complete objective of FATF to fight against any such thing. Now, FATF wants to see effective implementation of targeted financial sanctions against all terrorists and terrorist organizations designated under the UN Security Council Resolution 1267 and 1373. Now, FATF wants a complete implementation of their objective for all, or you can say against every terrorist and terrorist organization which are designated under the UN resolutions. Now, there are 2 UN resolutions that we are talking about. Number 1, UNSC Resolution 1267. It was adopted in on October 15, 1999. Now, this resolution is basically a consolidated list of people and entities that the United Nations has determined as being associated with Al-Qaeda or Taliban. The second one is UNSC Resolution 1373, adopted in the year 2001 on 28 September. Now, under this resolution, it completely declares international terrorism as a threat to international peace and security. Now, some other things which are quite important from the perspective of both preliminary and mains examination is that member countries, if we talk about the FATF basically is an intergovernmental body. Like I said, it has 37 members along with 2 regional organizations. India is one of the members of FATF. Now, FATF basically has 2 kinds of list. Number 1 is the grey list and number 2 is the black list. Now, under the grey list, countries which are considered as safe haven for supporting terror funding and money laundering, they are put under the category of FATF grey list. Countries that are considered as safe haven for supporting terror funding and money laundering. Blacklist, right now it comprises of 2 nations, which is North Korea and Iran. And these countries are also known as the NCCTs. Now, what exactly NCCTs means? So, they are non-cooperative countries or territories. They are actually put into blacklist. It is quite a proof according to these resolutions. It is according to FATF. They consider that all the countries who are present in the blacklist, these countries, they support terror funding as well as money laundering activities. Now, Like I talked about both the grey and the blacklist. Blacklist has got 2 nations. Grey list has got 12 countries. Now those 12 countries are Bahamas, Botswana, Cambodia, Ethiopia, Ghana, Pakistan, Panama, Sri Lanka, Syria, Trinidad and Tobago, Tunisia, and Yemen. So these are the 12 countries that are put under the grey list of FATF. We also spoke about the plenary. Now, when we speak about the FATF plenary, so FATF plenary is the decision-making body of the FATF, and the meeting of FATF happens thrice a year. Okay, so this was something with respect to the FATF. Now, if we speak something with respect to India, see, it is quite important for us to exactly see what India is doing here in FATF. So, India has constantly been sharing evidences with the key members of FATF on the narco-terror cases that are linked with the Pakistan-based syndicates, how these syndicates are actually trying to promote terrorism in India. Okay, so this was something with respect to FATF. The proposal was dropped when even other traditional backers of Pakistan such as China, Saudi Arabia and Malaysia did not support it. Like I said, only Turkey came for support of Pakistan. The traditional supporters of Pakistan, they too then came to support Pakistan in this. Clearly, Pakistan has little option but to complete its task in the next 4 months, which include more action against. Now, the only thing that Pakistan has got now is to work on those remaining pending 6 issues in the next 4 months. And they actually include what exactly they are. The United Nations Security Council banned terrorists. Pakistan has to take an action, strict action against these terrorists and terror groups. Action against charitable organizations linked to these banned entities. There are several charitable organizations. They actually pose as a charitable organization, but in reality, they are actually supporting and promoting terrorism. Also tracing fugitive terrorists and pursuing convictions against them. Revising the list of banned entities under the Anti-Terrorism Act to reflect all those banned by the United Nations Security Council. And cracking down on other channels of terror, financing through narcotics and smuggling. Now, Pakistan has to work on all such things. See, Pakistan did smartly. Pakistan actually thought nobody will find out that what exactly they are doing. So what happened? Pakistan booked many terrorists of Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, etc., other organizations under a quite weaker law, which is known as the Maintenance of the Public Order Act, whereas it is supposed to act under the Anti-Terrorism Act of 1997. So Pakistan actually tried to make the authorities look like a fool by taking action against all those terrorists under the Maintenance of Public Order Act. But these things, they came out, and that's why Pakistan could not complete those 6 remaining pending issues. Now, let's talk about the present scenario. Like I told you, India constantly has been providing evidences to the key members of the narco-terror cases that are linked to the Pakistani-based syndicates. For those in India watching the outcome of the FATF decision, there are some broader dividends to consider from this process. To begin with, the fact that the FATF has retained Pakistan on the grey list for the 3rd time this year and not automatically downgraded it to the blacklist with Iran and North Korea when its deadline for action ended in September 2019 has ensured the pressure has continued to make Pakistan accountable on terror. See, Pakistan was supposed to be, now it was in the news as well, that Pakistan will be shifted to the blacklist category, but Pakistan still managed somehow on the grey list. Now, why exactly this happened? This happened because Pakistan actually started taking some serious initiatives against the problem of money laundering, against terrorist outfits, against some terrorist organizations, etc. So when the FATF saw these results coming, they decided to keep Pakistan on the grey list itself. So one thing is quite sure from this particular initiative, and that is Pakistan now, though under the pressure, under the international pressure, but it is doing something against terrorism. The Khan government has been forced to make a real legislative push to bring Pakistani anti-terror laws in line with international standards, while at least for the interim also ensuring sufficient pressure on groups such as the Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed that target India to refrain from public comments and publicly raising funds. Now, like I said, Pakistani government has been constantly forced to make a legislative law, a very strict legislative law against terrorism that should be on international standards. Okay? Even if it is taking quite some time, then Pakistan, while the time the legislative law is being prepared, in the meanwhile, Pakistan should actually start taking initiative against terrorist outfits like Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, which are constantly a problem for India. Now, what is the future ahead? Meanwhile, Pakistan's support to the US-led Afghan process and talk with the Taliban are crucial to the peace process, and the FATF process has made Islamabad more amenable to helping Afghanistan. See, we have discussed in one of my previous videos that peace talks have actually begun between the United States and Taliban. And in those peace talks, Pakistan played a very important role by bringing Taliban to the table. So Pakistan had a very important role in bringing Taliban for talks. So the role of Pakistan cannot be overruled here. And with this initiative of peace process and also the FATF process, it is looking like that Pakistan is definitely open and responsive to suggestions in order to help Afghanistan by making sure that the peace process works perfectly. It remains to see if the action it takes will permanently change Pakistan's course in supporting and sheltering cross-border terror groups. We have to see that whether these initiatives are short-lived or they are being taken for a long term. India's eventual goal is not just in stopping attacks by these groups, but for Pakistan to fully dismantle the infrastructure of terror, in the understanding that it is in Pakistan's own interest to do so. See, India's eventual goal is not just to stop these terrorist activities taking place in India, but also to ensure that Pakistan completely demolishes this infrastructure of terrorism which they have established in their own country for a greater good, for their own people, for their own country. It is hoped that the prolonged FATF process will enable this realization in Islamabad. So we are quite hopeful that definitely these initiatives will help both FATF and Pakistan to fight against terrorism and to make sure that the entire international threat which is looming on the entire world, it completely is being eliminated. See, if everything, like I'll give you a couple of examples, like what exactly happened when Pakistan came in the FATF category, grey lists category. So there were several huge losses which Pakistan incurred. Like a loan was asked by Pakistan of $6 billion from IMF. The amount initially was expected that entire $6 billion will be given, but later on, IMF actually reduced that amount. That was why, because Pakistan was put under the grey list category. Also, Pakistan would eventually suffer at least losses of around $10 billion per year if it continues to stay on the grey list. So there is a tremendous amount of economic pressure on Pakistan as well. So viewers, this was with today's editorial analysis. Now, some of the questions that can be asked with reference to today's editorial. First of all, the preliminary based question, they can ask you about FATF, what exactly is FATF, the year of foundation, the head office, the present president. Also, They can ask you about what is blacklist, what is grey list, who are the countries present in both the grey and the blacklist. So take an idea out of that, and questions like this can be asked with reference to preliminary examination. Questions related to mains: what is Financial Action Task Force, that is FATF? What are the objectives of FATF? Discuss its importance for India-Pakistan relations. So viewers, this was with today's editorial analysis. I hope you liked the editorial today. Thank you very much.